Hey guys, this video is going to go over two-step equations, and I accidentally wrote problems, so write down whatever you want to write. But two-step equations, and so if you want to pause the video here and just go ahead and copy down what you see, and then I can go over it so you're not having to multitask. Alright, so a couple of rules that we have to follow when we're solving equations. First, we can only combine like terms. So if something has an x, we cannot combine it with a term that doesn't have an x. So x's with x's, it's called a constant if you don't have an x on it, but basically numbers with numbers, x's with x's. We're going to be using inverse operations. So the opposite of plus is minus, the opposite of multiply, divide, the opposite of square is square root, those types of things. And the last rule that we have to remember is we're going to be working backwards from, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, the order of operations. So if we see any addition or subtraction, we're going to do that first. If we see any multiplication or division, kind of second, and then an exponent would be third. Parentheses would be fourth, kind of in that order. So I have my first example here, pretty basic. What some of you I know like to do, just so you can try to keep your work a little bit more organized, is like draw a line down the equal sign. If you feel pretty confident in this, you can pause, work it out, and then play the video to see if you got it correct. So first thing I'm going to notice is this is the side with the variable. So it has two terms. It has the variable, and it also has this constant, which has no x on it. So I need to get rid of this term because it's on the wrong side. This is my variable side, and this particular term has no variable. It's also, if you notice, that this is a plus operation. So plus and minus are things that we want to try to get rid of first. So the opposite of addition, the opposite of plus, is minus. So I need to cancel that off. And so whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. You have to keep it balanced. So I just am going to bring down this 2x so I don't forget about it. That is totally gone. A negative 1 and a plus 1 is 0. So that's gone. But I still have to figure out what this side is now. So 9 minus 1 is 8. All right, so I saw a plus 1. I'm looking for addition and subtraction first. The opposite of plus is minus. And again, I also wanted to get rid of this because it has no variable and it's on my variable side. All right, so now whenever you have a number in front of x, this is called a coefficient. And when you see 2x, it really means 2 times x. So I have a multiplication operation, and so the opposite of multiply is divide. So that's usually what we do. We just like draw a line there, kind of looking like a fraction bar, to show that we're going to divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we canceled out the coefficient because we don't need to put a 1 in front of an x. We can just put x. But this side still has to be finished. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and we have x is equal to 4. The thing that I love about solving equations is you can always check your answer and see if it makes sense. So you should know if you made a 100 on your assignment before you even turn it in. My original equation said that 2x plus 1 is supposed to equal 9. This means 2 times x, and the x that I got was 4. 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 plus 1 is 9, so it worked out. All right, another example. And I'm probably only going to do 3 examples in this video. All right, so here's my next example. Again, I can draw my line at the equal sign. And I see here's my variable. So that means this is my variable side, which means this 10 has to go. I have to cancel this out. It's on my variable side, and this is just 10. It doesn't say 10x. So it's going to be tempting for you to notice this minus sign right away. But whenever we're dealing with terms, a term is either positive or negative. And because there's nothing in front, this is considered a positive 10. So if I wanted to get rid of this positive 10, I would have to subtract it on both sides. This negative is attached to the variable term. So in this case, I'm not really going to see it as a minus sign. I'm going to see it as a negative sign. Because I'm trying to cancel out the 10, I have to look in front of a number to see whether it's positive or negative, and if there's nothing there, it's positive. So 10 minus 10 cancels out. 10 minus 10 is 0. I haven't done anything with this yet, so I'm just going to drop it down. And I still have to figure out this side. 28 minus 10 is 18. All right, so now I am at that stage where I have a coefficient. And this is the same as this, except instead of being a positive, this is a negative. So to get rid of it, I'm going to do the same thing that I did as my step 2 up here. But I'm just going to make sure I divide by negative 3. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 cancels. Anything divided by itself is 1, and we don't have to put a 1 in front of an x. We can just put x. This side over here, 18 divided by 3 is 6. When the signs are different, your answer is negative. So when the signs are different, it's negative. If our signs were the same, it would be positive. So a positive divided by a negative is negative 6. We can check. Ten minus 3x equals 28. That means negative 3 times negative 6. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. If there's something that I'm supposed to multiply, I got to do that first. So I'm going to see this as negative 3 times negative 6. Negative 3 times negative 6 is a positive 18. And that checks out. 10 plus 18 is 28. All right, and keep in mind that throughout these videos, you can always pause them and watch them a second time. You can pause them and write down what questions you have. We're going to be going over these and the questions you have when I see you again on our Zoom. All right, and the last example that I'm going to do with you for now is two-step equations that look like this. So you're probably going to want to take care of this minus 2 because your brain is just automatically going to see those things that you're used to and try to do those first. But the tricky thing about big fractions like this is there's an imaginary set of parentheses around that x minus 2. We don't put the parentheses there because we draw the bar really big instead. And if you think about the order, when we're solving, parentheses is the last thing that I would worry about. Anything in parentheses won't get done until the very end because I'm looking for what's added or subtracted first and then multiply and divide. So something in parentheses I can't do until the end of my list. So I actually have to deal with this big bar first. I have to get rid of this as a fraction. If you remember the words numerator and denominator, this 3 is called the denominator. And so to get rid of this fraction, you multiply both sides by the denominator. Now, a common misconception is that you're supposed to distribute this 3, and that's not true. This 3 is here to cancel out that 3, because this means 3 divided by 3, which is 1, so it cancels out. So you're not just going to be dropping down x, you're going to be dropping down this whole thing. That entire x minus 2 drops down, all of it. And then you still have to work out this side. 4 times 3 is 12. Now we can undo this. So the opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. That cancels because they're opposite. And I have to work out this side. 12 plus 2 is 14. I'm going to check. If I replace the x with 14, 14 minus 2 is 12, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So it checks out. All right, I expect that you have written down all 3 of these examples, and I expect that you probably have some questions that you need to write down so that you remember to ask me when we Zoom.